Hey Shalom, hey Shalom on the start of souls by giving no praise to Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shah, Hashem, Kudash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS and honors to you brothers doing the work in truth, while sincerity. Here I've got what do you call it? It's just a quick one on how the rest of the world sees Jake, right? So this is the Romanian Wikipedia page for African Americans, right? Now I'll read it the best that I can, right? It says African Americans are the descendants of the population originally of Africa, brought by what's this word? By merchants of slaves, so slave merchants into the United States of America between 1609 and 1807. Right, it says in 1860 there lived 3.5 million African American slaves. Slavery was abolished definitively after the Civil War, around 1861, 1865. In the year 2000, in the United States, there lived 34.6 million African Americans, namely 12.3%. Also, basically, 12.3% of the whole population. The biggest concentration of African Americans was in the South, right? So that's literally all they say. That is literally all they say about Jake. About the term African American, right? So you have a, what do you call it? So a Romanian going and he's heard about Afro Americani, or don't know, I did that in an Italian accent, but you have one of what do you call it? You have one of them guys that hate the term African American. He looks up what it is, right, and then he just says it's a slave, right? Which is the way. Which is the way that people view Jakes. Now you got a lot of Romanians in, or at least in the UK, a lot of the Romanians for the most part are Jakes, right? Live in the same neighborhood, etc. Right? But you're gonna have Edomites over there in that land, right? And this is how Esau wants the world to see Jake. Right. All right. So Psalms 83. Start from verse 2. So for lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up their head. Right. So their enemies. So basically, the people that have made that have basically come together to put Jake down. They're our enemies. So that's basically everyone outside the nation of Israel. Right. So they have taken crafty counsel against our people. Right, and consulted against that hidden ones. And crafty counsel is how controlling the narrative on what Jake is. Right, Jake is just a slave. Jake is just a gangbanger. Jake doesn't amount to shit. Right, and that's that's helped also by that term black. Right, that term black is just death, void of light. Right, so in the eyes of these these people from these lands, right, Jay doesn't amount to anything. You look at Jay, he's like, what fellow was this, right? Now that's part of that crafty counsel. Says they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance, right? And the name of Israel is not in remembrance at all. They don't know Jake. I mean, and Jake doesn't know who they are. They want to be they want to be black. They want to be Africans. They will hold on to this term African American, right? Why? Because too long Esau's been controlling the narrative, which is why it's the Spirit and Apostle Gabar basically made that decree saying, you brothers out there that look like that look like these heathens, especially that don't look like a so-called black man Salat, do a video saying, am I a black Hebrew Israelite? Right? Because Esau controls the narrative. He pushes shit like this out, right? And Jake is happy to stay in this dead state, right? This is Jeremiah 17:4. It says, and now even thyself shall discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, right? So the heritage of Israel is Israel, not black, not this, not slave, certainly not a slave, because scriptures Right, it says Jeremiah 2:14. It says, is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Right? Why is he spoiled? Right? And you look at Jake for the most part today, and Jake is a servant, right? And he's a slave. You know, that's part of the curses spoken of in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, right? About how, Esau shall be the head, right? And we will be the tail, right? We always having to, scriptures also say in Deuteronomy always talks about how we should go to this man in the want of all things, right? And we do. Right, Esau, what do you call it? Esau, we want a pair of trainers, we've got to go to Esau. We want water, we've got to go to Esau. Right, hey, look at the rivers all around. You got the Thames, you can't just go to the Thames and drink. You'll drop dead. Why you just drinking off that Thames water? Right? So let me carry on. It says, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies, right, in the land which thou knowest not, right, which and what are you gonna do? Look at Jake now. Jake is serving their enemies, right, Esau at the time being, right. Before it was other nations, but right now it's Esau. And what did Jake doing? Jake be pumping these white women, right, and Jake be having babies with these white women. So what do you think their sons are gonna do? They may go to the black woman, or they may go to the white woman. So then, what does the grandson look like, right? Which is why, would you call it, in these different countries, like you have Jakes that look like the heathen that they're round about, because the Lord has made us serve our enemies, right, in these lands, right? It says, for ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. Right, so we pissed the Lord off. So basically part of the curses was, look, man, you're gonna be scared amongst the heathen, and you'll look like the heathen. Right. So let me continue back in Psalms 83. Right. It says Psalms 83:4 again says, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. Right, and it goes on to list the names of these nations, our enemies. So all these nations got together, right, and then there's been a big psyop, pushed on all the people, so that we are just slaves, as you see here, just a slave, nothing more, nothing less, just a slave, right? So Deuteronomy 28:37, it says, and thou shalt be an astonishment, a proverb and a byword among all nations, whither Yahweh shall lead thee. Right, so in all the people that we're round about, we're just a proverb and a byword. Hey, look at these niggas, these Ishmaelites or whatever. They call us a bead. Once again, which means slave, and that's how Jake is seen. Right? Jake isn't Jake, and let's be real. That's how Jake carries themselves. Right, whereas Jake is supposed to be on top. Jake, Jake being short for Jacob, whose name got changed to Israel meaning he is a prince of the power. Prince of power means you're son of God. Right, Jake doesn't be acting like a son of God. Right, it says Ecclesiastes 10:7 says, I've seen servants upon horses, which is Esau. Right, it says, and princes walking as servants upon the earth. Right, and that's how Jay be moving right now. Jay just be moving as servants, right? Being slaves and being happy about it. And like I said, literally this article is one paragraph, right? And all it says is slave. That's what you come from. That's what you call it, and that's it, right? Whereas our history is a lot greater than that, right? With the law shall lead thee around my end, and with wisdom, the 5th chapter, right? It says, then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him, and made no account of his labor. Right, the righteous men are, the men doing the work of the Lord, right? Going out there pushing the truth, right? The best that they can, whatever lot it is that the Lord has given them to do. Right, but it goes on. So let me break that down. It says, then righteous man, right? The men doing the work, whatever, shall stand in great boldness, right? You see the brothers at the camps, standing boldly, right? In you know, in the face of such as have afflicted him. You know, these Edomites, you so-called white people, and all these heathens, right? And all these heathens round about, right? It says, and made no account of his labors, right? Ah, yeah, but you niggas are just lazy. It was like, bitch, Jake's been working hard from, you know, since, what do you call it? Jake's been working hard for free for several hundred years, right? It says, when they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear. When they're looking at us, you know, brothers be, you know, we're not eloquent orators, but when it comes to the scriptures, we move eloquently, right? You know, they'll try to say, they'll try to chuck some history, and then brothers will break down the history, right? They'll try, you know, throw some scriptures, and brothers will break down the scriptures, and then they're hurt. They're like, why do these niggas know so much? You're just supposed to be niggas, right? It says, and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation. Right, that's talking about them ships, man. Right, then them UFOs, you know, and that's how, you know, the children of Israel are gonna be beamed up. Right, me get that in First Thessalonians. This is First Thessalonians 4. 16 says, for Yahweh himself shall, Lord, really, Yahweh says, for Yahweh himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, right, with the voice of the archangel and with the trump of the Most High, and the dead in Mashiach shall rise first, right? So that, you know, you read Acts 1st chapter 9 verse, it says, you know, the same way that Yahweh left, which was in a chariot, right? Acts 1 and 9, right, is the same way he's going to return, right? It says, and the dead in Yahushua shall rise first. It says, then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we be ever with the Lord. You know, so basically saying that, you know, the men of the Lord, they're gonna be beamed up, and you know, it ain't literal clouds, right? You read, in fact, it'll be in one of these precepts here. So it says Psalms 104 and 3 says, who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds his chariots, who walketh upon the wings of the wind. Right, so these chariots are gonna be the you know, when it says clouds, sometimes it's talking about a chariot, right? You know, you know, Esau has vehicles, but you know, our Lord Yahushua can't have a vehicle, right? So let me continue, right? So far beyond all that they look for. It says, and they repenting and groaning for anguish of spirit shall say within themselves, this was he whom we had sometimes in derision and the proverb of reproach. Right? And it's us and these niggas. Right? It says, we fools accounted his life madness and his end to be without honor. Yeah, you just a slave. You know, you ain't nothing honorable about you. You're just a slave, right? How is he numbered among the children of the Most High, and his lot again among the saints, right? Like I said, you're just a slave, and that's how these nations see you as slaves, right? So, you know, Wisdom 5 is one of them ones where you can read, you know, you can read into it a bit. But that was the point I wanted to grab, man. You know, Jake is just seen as a slave in the world, man. Right? So, yeah, until the next time, stay shalom.